Hey everyone, welcome back to Watch and Carry. So in today's video I have a brand new accessory that came in the mail today for my Onewheel Plus, and these are the rail guards in the light gray option from the Onewheel website. So these are meant to go over the side rails, the top, and then the bottom. So the package came in, initial impressions, I was very impressed with the shipping. I ordered these on November 10th and I got these today, the 13th. So it was 3 days, very, very quick shipping. Well packaged, these were not bent at all. The package maintained its shape. And just opening these, I was really surprised, first and foremost, with how accurate the color looks in person compared to what you're ordering on the website. You know, a lot of things that you order online, the pictures that they put up there are just either oversaturated or they're rendered, and the shade that you actually get can kind of be a little bit off. And for people who are nitpicky like me with color, especially when you're trying to match other accessories with them, it's nice to see that something is very accurate. So to me, this looks exactly like the light gray that they post on their website. Now, the contents in the package that you're going to get, of course, are protection for the side rails. So I have the one here on the power button side already installed. And then, of course, you get one for this side. You get it for the other rail as well. You get these colored rails to go on the very top. And then you get these clear rails, which look red, but that's just the adhesive protective film. These clear rails to go on the bottom. So for me, I like the way they laid that out. I do like that the clear options are for the bottom. I fly with my Plus every now and then without these battery packs, of course. But once or twice I've been asked by the TSA agent to show the watt-hour rating on my board. And if the bottom protective films here were colored, yeah, it would look nice, but it would actually prevent somebody from looking at that watt-hour rating. So you can find that rating right here, actually. It's upside down, but you can see it says 130 watt-hours. And for some agents, that's important to check to allow you to fly with. So I do like that they give you clear options for the bottom. Other things I noticed is the thickness of the material is pretty substantial. So I've taken a nickel here in front of you. Let me focus on that. And you can see that the Onewheel film, or the Onewheel railguard I should call it, it's not a film, it's a guard, is just a hair thicker than the nickel. I would attribute that extra thickness to the adhesive that you can see there on the bottom. So I would say the guard itself is about the thickness of a nickel, which is pretty great. I think that's the thickest one I've used on a Onewheel so far. Let's see, what else did I notice? They give you the basics that other companies give you. So you have cutouts, of course, for the charge port, and then you also have cutouts for the power button. I do like the way they did their cutouts here, so this might be hard to show, but from my perspective, it's not like just a hole that's been punched into the guard. There's actually a bevel to this punch out, which is really nice. Just adds a little bit of refinement, even though you might not be paying that much attention to it. But just kind of speaks to the quality. You'll also notice I have these button guards here, or port covers, I should say. So it's nice to know that for most port covers, I've tried 3 or 4 brands now. They go in perfectly fine. I've tried the port covers from, what's that website? Landsurf makes a great port cover. That one was able to fit inside this rail. I've tried the ones that are sold off of the Carve, out of the Craft and Ride website. So those seem to fit as well. So you should have no problem getting your port covers into there. One thing that was a nice surprise for me was the cutouts for the bolts that go to the wheel themselves. Now, I've used rail guards from the Float Life. Great guards, covered my pint really, really well. Love that company and their customer service, but I was a little disappointed that it did cover the holes for the bolts. Now, that might not be important to some people. It might be nice actually for others to say, hey, it's covered. There's no chance of that rusting. For me, you know, if I decide to switch out a tire or I have to do some kind of service in here, that means possibly having to remove the wheel, and you can only remove it by accessing these 2 bolts. So in the case of the ones I use from the Float Life, I just kind of drilled my own holes into the guard itself. It wasn't a big deal, but it's nice that Onewheel actually cuts it out for you. So that's a nice touch there. So in terms of review, I haven't really used these yet. Obviously, it's still being mounted, so I can't comment on that. If there are any complaints that I have so far, I think they're pretty nitpicky and minor. I would say probably just the shipping. Not the time. The time is great. 3 days is very quick. But the only option right now to order these guards off of Onewheel is to have FedEx with a signature required upon delivery. So, you know, if you're not home and it's a weekday, it might kind of be a pain that you might have to go to a pickup center, or you might have to wait till the weekend to pick up your guard. So that was, you know, just a minor complaint. But I think the speed of the shipping more than offsets that small inconvenience. Peeling off the adhesive. So you can see that I've actually mounted one there already. So just be a little bit careful when it comes to peeling off the adhesive. It sounds simple enough, but initially when I tried to get an edge started here, I was actually peeling off both the protective film and the adhesive beneath it. So it's very easy to accidentally get your nail and start peeling off both. You know, obviously just take a close look at what you're peeling. And if it comes off, if it's very difficult to come off, then obviously you should, you know, push it back down and maybe get a pair of tweezers or something and just start getting at the red backing there. But again, something really, really small, and, you know, I'm just having to grasp here for complaints. This is what it looks like on my Onewheel. So, you know, the theme I'm going for is just black, gray, and yellow. So I do kind of like the shade of gray they chose here. And this seems to cover very well. So the part of the rail here that would end in blue, that's exactly where the guard ends on that side. And then half of this hole here, which should be covered by the guard, is also covered. So there was another company's film I used, I forgot the name. It was great quality, but what I ended up finding was it extended just a tad too far on my pint, like actually all the way out here where my finger was. Not that big a deal, it's still stuck on, but again, speaks to the quality that these were really well measured and should be easy to align with all the ports and the holes on the board. So anyways, guys, again, these are the rail guards for the Onewheel Plus in the light gray color, ordered from Onewheel's website. They cost about 25 bucks plus shipping. So far, I've been very happy with them. I'm going to pause the video here and actually install the rest of these, and then I'll come back to show you what it looks like. Okay, so here's a good example. I'm installing the top rail cover right now, and this is just very hard to just get the protective backing out without the adhesive. So I would recommend just maybe starting a corner or just grabbing a pair of tweezers and just, you know, going at it very gently. Once you have, like, you know, a sliver up, the rest of it kind of follows, but just something to be aware of when you're peeling off the protective backing. Okay, so one other thing I would recommend when installing these is, regardless of which side of the rail you start on, do the half that has either the charge hole or the power button hole first. And so the reason for that is when you're lining up these rail guards, like let's say I was to start with this side instead of that one, right? The only landmarks I really have to line this up perfectly is going to be this bolt hole here, and then of course the edge here and the top, which is fine. But we know that the most important thing, if we were to mess up, the most important thing to get in line really is that charge cover or the power button cover, especially if you're going to be putting plugs over them. So if you know that these are the most important parts to get in line, do them first, because this alignment will affect this. But if you do this first, then this one will be easier to install. So just a small tip there. And okay, so here is the rail guard installed on both sides. Again, that clear one goes on the bottom, so you won't be able to see that. And it's dark on that side, so let me flip the board over. And here's the other side. So overall, very happy with the quality. In terms of coverage, you know, you're really going to have to look closely to find any traces of the original frame beneath it. So, you know, obviously if you go to the top here and you're looking between the gaps between these two panels, obviously you'll see it there. If you're looking at the bolt holes straight on, you will see them. But, you know, stepping back, it's very hard to notice. So you really get great coverage. A couple things that maybe could be improved just a tad are these top covers. Okay, now the way I lined these up was the rail where my finger's touching now, and then the guard itself are flush, which is what it should be, right? And you can see that even though it's flush there is a little bit of a misalignment between the cutout for the screw and the screw itself. Now, I could have moved this rail over to make sure that that hole is in line with the screw, but what I noticed was since the edges of these guards are a little bit translucent, like here, you can see it right here, how it's a little bit clear. If I was to move this guard a little bit more to the inside, I would have seen more of the blue frame here on the side. So I just went for vanity's sake and I wanted it to look better. And for me, I always said, look, I can always, you know, take an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife and cut that a little bit larger should I need to remove that screw. So just something to be aware of. One other thing, I already mentioned earlier that the adhesive protective film on the back was hard to peel off. So, you know, even if you're using tweezers, you might accidentally peel some of that adhesive glue from the guard itself off. So what I would recommend you do is with these side guards, start your peeling on the inside rather than at the tail end. And the reason for that is because if you mess up here and let's say by accident you peel off some of that glue, and let's say this part now, this corner is no longer as strong as these, out of all these four corners, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I would want these inside ones to be the weakest if I had to choose one of them to be weak. Well, why? Because the board is going forward, so you have a lot of air resistance moving this way. You want this part to be really well covered. And also the fact that, you know, at the end here, there's no other panel. So there's really an easy edge that this can catch on to start peeling it off. So you really want this to be tough. Versus here, even if you remove a little bit of that adhesive, there's another panel here that sits flush with it. So really, it's a harder chance for something to catch underneath that and peel it off. So really start your peeling of the adhesive protective film off from the inside of these panels. But again, here is a look of it. I was going for a black, gray, yellow type of theme. So I have my silver handle by Masco coming in the gold color. Not quite yellow, but I think it will be close enough. I do want to mention that I did see yesterday that Onewheel released a mount for the pint handle. So everybody is pretty familiar with the pint handle. You can buy the pint handle separately, but now there's a mount that you can buy separately that adheres, I think it's to this side where the power button is, and it allows you to attach different pint handles to it. So you can go for the Mag Handle Pro. You can go for the Mag Handle Standard that comes in the many different colors. So the actual handle is the same as the one on the pint. They've just now created a mount that allows you to mount it to the Plus and the XR, and they also sell that in yellow. So kind of cool. I got my other handle for free, so I will just use that for now. But if you wanted to add a little bit of style and convenience with that cool mag handle, you can do that as well. So I'll give you guys another walk around. Here's that power button cover, again made by TEECE3D off of Etsy. Here's the one I have for the charge plug. Again, I used some yellow paint for the The characters on the wheels, this is what I'm using. These are the Sharpie paint pens that you can get off of Amazon. It comes in a pack like that for about, I think that whole pack was maybe about $7. I had a spare yellow cap for the Schrader valve there that I put there. And if you're curious, these two things on the bottom are actually external battery packs. So what this does is it adds, they're called the 2X system. That's the name of the battery and I think the company that makes them. Okay, it's made by a gentleman named Soren. He's pretty popular already on the Facebook Onewheel website. And ignore this blemish here. I tried to paint it unsuccessfully, so I'm actually cleaning this with alcohol to remove that right now. But this battery pack system basically is meant for the Plus or the V1. It will give you about 12 to 17 miles of range, ups the torque a little bit, especially for uphill, prevents nose dives because now you have 1, 2, and then a third battery that comes in the kit to balance out the demand on the motor rather than just one battery stock. So less chance of demand over exceeding capability of the motor, which means less chance of that board nose diving. Okay, so that's the 2X battery system. And then I also painted the wood finish on the foot pads. And let me grab that pen that I used. So to paint these up, I am using this brand here. And let me see if I can get that brand in focus. There we go. Okay, it comes in a variety of colors. Again, you can order this off of Amazon. And the reason I went for this instead of just using the standard Sharpie paint, which I've heard is also very effective, is because this is kind of like a waxy material. And let me show you what it looks like. So here, let's go into light here. You're able to see it. It's kind of like, it almost looks like a crayon type consistency. Okay. And the reason I wanted something that's a little bit more waxy was because you have this wood finish, and of course the wood is relatively non-porous, right? There's a lot of imperfections when you get down to it. And so by having this like waxy material, it helps to fill in those little valleys or the little crevices in the wood, so that way you have a more solid finish. It's also supposed to be pretty resistant to weather. I don't ride in the rain, but I've ridden this for about 50 miles now, and the finish still continues to do well. This is actually from me. I accidentally had a red pen that kind of fell onto here, but I've been very, very happy with this pen as well. However, I would not recommend that pen on the tire because since it's kind of like a crayon consistency, I noticed that it kind of cracked. It wasn't able to hold its integrity as well to the rubber. So far, the Sharpie brand that I showed you earlier, the Sharpie paint pens, does a much better job. And for the yellow, it's a much brighter yellow, which is what I wanted to go for, compared to the other brand as well. So that's a look. Kind of went overboard here with the review, but yeah, the Railguards, very, very happy. Highly recommend them, and I will keep you guys posted as to the durability. If you have any questions about them, put them down below, and I will be happy to answer them. And as always, have fun, be safe, and I'll see you on the